Here's what I think of Americans. This one coming from Chris Williamson. I have seen this guy's podcast before. Fantastic work. He's had on hundreds of guests, I think. He's been doing this for a very long time. Curious to see what he has to say about Americans, though, because I know he's probably been to America quite a few times, but I have no idea his actual thoughts on Americans. Or if it's a guest. I don't know. You guys recommended it. I'm here checking it out. Smash like button. Let's dive in.
Talking a lot about differences between the UK and the USA. What have you come to believe about that?
So my biggest takeaway from being in America as a Brit is it's like finding out my dad had a kid with another woman that I never met, and we meet for the first time, and I'm like, you're kind of me, but you're not me. It's like he spent a bit more money on you. He made you believe in yourself. Your mom was clearly much nicer or kinder, and you go, oh, Americans, like, we're kind of the same. But
it's like Brits with self-belief.
Brits with self-belief is what Americans are.
Brits with self-belief
is one of the different. There's lots of pros and there's lots of cons for both, but that was my overwhelming takeaway. The second biggest takeaway I have is that Brits don't really truly realize how impactful the British accent is until you leave Britain.
Oh yeah. The British accent when you come to the States, if I run into, not even just the British accent, I would say the British accent usually comes off like people are smart. I don't know what it is. I don't know why we feel like that. It's just the way that the British talk. And then pretty much any other accent, though, is just very appealing. But I think that's not really... I don't think that's just a British thing. I think that's just a cultural thing between different countries, right? Like, if somebody comes to your country and is speaking your language and they have a crazy accent on them, it's just, I don't know. I love it. It's very, very appealing. There are some that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't know why, but there's only a couple.
The metaphor I came up with for describing the British accent to Brits is, imagine everywhere else in the world, there's a salmon famine. Right? And the British accent is like selling salmon. And the only place in the world where there's an abundance of salmon is in the UK. So if you're there using that, it basically gets you nothing in the UK. But you suddenly leave or go outside
anywhere else and you're exotic.
Anywhere else. And they think you're smarter.
Yeah.
They think you're more attractive. Yeah.
Americans often ask me when they talk about that, and I do think it's true, that Brits have an unfair advantage in America of being seen as more learned. Like everyone presumes that we're part of the aristocracy or something. And they often ask me, well, what do you think of American accents in the UK? And that was a really interesting question. I was like, I actually don't know.
I've heard from a lot of Europeans that it sounds like they're watching a movie, right? Because we have the classic movie accent. I don't know. I could be wrong, though.
Like, certainly for me, on girls, it's like kind of sexy. That feels exotic in some way. Definitely energetic, overly enthusiastic and excitable.
No.
Especially when you've got one American in a bunch of Brits. When you're the Brit in a bunch of Americans, oh, well, you know, everyone's just sort of excitable and first line cocaine energy. But when you drop one American in a like Newcastle or something, oh my God, who is that? It's a nuclear warhead surrounded by a bunch of swords. Yeah, I think since being here, you know, it's made me reflect on the UK.
Oh, is he in America? I had no idea. I don't know. It's been a while since I've checked this out, but I think when I used to watch him, he was in the UK. He must set up shop in America. Okay.
I hate being disparaging about the UK. Like, it's the country that gave me and you our start. We both went to university there. We both had our first jobs there. We both built businesses there. I think we're both in one form or another still registered. You'll be on Company's House in some vestigial old fucking thing. And I really wish that I didn't sort of talk badly about it, but you sent me a tweet last week and I've been watching Bald and Bankrupt. Awesome YouTube channel. I invited him on the show. He replied. He said he'd love to, but he's actually trying to actively wind down his public exposure. So he said he keeps getting asked for too many selfie photos in Tesco. And he does strike me as the kind of man that probably doesn't want to be overexposed. You know, he was doing, for the people that don't know, this guy who does kind of like dark tourism stuff, he got trafficked across the border into Mexico. He was detained in a Russian jail for a while. And then he decided he was going to take on the final boss of Dangerous Places, which was seaside towns of the UK. And he just travels around sort of looking at all of these bad places. And you sent me that tweet last week, which I think nails it, which is the UK has the 6th largest economy in the world, but people are confused. The UK doesn't have the 6th largest economy in the world. London has the 6th largest economy in the world. It just has a really poor country attached to a very rich city.
Is that true? How big is the London economy? I mean, I knew it was pretty big. It's like one of the financial capitals of the world. I don't know. I've seen quite a bit of the UK, though. It doesn't really look poor.
Which was US universities. So I think in the top 10 universities in the world, the UK has 3 and the US has 3. Yet the US outputs 5 times, those US universities output 5 times the number of entrepreneurs that those UK universities do. So in theory, these people are as intelligent as one another across that. I think it's Oxford, Cambridge, and another university.
King's, maybe Durham.
Maybe, yeah. And what's interesting when you go across global university rankings and outputs of entrepreneurs in the study that was shared, the UK university, which was Oxford, so that's the number 1 for entrepreneurial output, was 50th across the whole world.
Damn.
Despite the fact we rank so high in education, yet actually transforming that into entrepreneurship doesn't seem to happen. And I wonder again whether that's the self-belief thing. You also see this weirdly, and I could be mistaken here, I have this bias that I think Brits are fundamentally more funnier than Americans.
Okay.
However, way more great stand-up comedians that are American than British. Like we have Ricky Gervais, we have Jimmy Carr, and then in terms of global appeal outside of that, there's not a huge amount more. And my theory behind that...
I'm trying to think other than Jimmy Carr and Ricky Gervais. Oh gosh, what was that one guy? I have watched a couple of clips from Finn something. Right? We watched him in a clip the other day. We did a video when he was on the NFL morning show, and it was hilarious. And then one of his shorts came across my YouTube feed, and I watched it. It was, oh my gosh. I'll throw it into a video. We'll watch it. It was hilarious.
So why do you have the funniest people, yet not the biggest stand-up comedians out of those names there? And I think the same crabs in a bucket mentality that makes people so funny, because we can shoot people down and shoot ourselves down, is the same thing that makes it absurd as a concept to go and get on stage and say, I want to be a funny person. Like that in the UK. So I think the funniest guy in the world right now
is in the UK.
He's probably in a Greg's in Wigan, or he is in a pub in Portsmouth. And because of that crabs in a bucket mentality, Americans are way more likely to get on stage and go, I want to be a funny person, because that's part of the American DNA. Meanwhile, the Brits, who I think are actually funnier, don't end up doing as much stand-up comedy.
Entrepreneurial
as well as
spirit.
Entrepreneurial, yeah.
But, you know, even within that sort of self-belief, it's one and the same. I think it's agency, it's the preparedness to go against the grain. And, you know, this, we're going to talk about subprime audiences later on. But, you know, this audience is like, I would say like it's full of like A's and double A's of people, especially the ones from the UK. And I think the reason that this resonates, I'm not saying it to disparage the UK, I don't think either of us are, but to kind of reassure the people for whom they feel a little bit like square peg in a round country.
Square peg in a round
country. Sat in the UK, you know, some normal town, you're in fucking Wakefield or Carlisle or Middlesbrough, Rochdale, wherever you are. And you think, God, you know, this is the sort of conversations I really love to have. These is the kind of thoughts that I think about, and I really want to have big dreams for myself. And then I just really struggle to resonate with the people around me. I really, really fail to do that. And I think I wish that I'd had, when I was younger, more reassurance that I wasn't the problem. You know, there's no value judgment. People that have big dreams, people that don't have big dreams, but there's nothing inherently wrong with you having those dreams, and there's no reason that you should be castigated or have the piss taken out of you because you want to do something different. I've
kind of heard this from not just from the UK, but in Germany as well. Like, and tell me if I'm correct on this, you guys, where if somebody is doing something like kind of stepping out of line, not even in entrepreneurship, but just, you know, trying to do more, it's kind of like shunned upon a little bit, which is a massive cultural difference for us over here. So it's really interesting for me to see it. And I don't just think of the UK, though. I think Germany is like the other one that really pops up to the top of my head. So tell me if I'm correct about that.
You don't intend being born, living, working, and dying within the same 20-mile radius of you know, where your parents grew up.
Yes. But even at a walking around level, you see this. So if you walk around America, there's flags everywhere.
Yeah.
There's kind of pride in the nation. If you walk around the UK and you see a flag, you go, oh, fuck.
EDL member.
There might be a Nazi, which is crazy. Unless there's a football tournament, then everybody does it. That's the weird paradox of the UK.
That's the craziest thing.
So it's even at that level, you see this kind of pride at the nation level. And at the UK, it's almost like this weird autoimmune condition.
Do you have any idea why the British football team uses 3 lions rather than the St. George's Cross?
Don't know.
Isn't that interesting?
Huh?
Because I don't think Scotland does, and I don't think Ireland does, and I don't think Wales do. And I can't think of any other.
I heard that it's only when you guys have like the World Cup, right? Like when the World Cup is going on, or maybe not the Champions. No, I think it was just the World Cup, where that's when you guys bring your flags out for your country during a match, where he's completely correct. Like Americans will, I don't know. Let him finish.
I don't think Wales do. And I can't think of any other team. Actually,
if they're on the same
England
country,
cricket guys will do the same thing. There must be a reason. Someone will be correcting me in the comments as we speak. But that's, yeah, for the Americans that are listening, British national pride, like BNP, British national pride, I know it's not that, but like, it's just, it doesn't exist. And then you come over here and it is nice. It's nice to hear that people have got pride in their country.
So the probably the critique people have of us right now is that we're critiquing Britain way more than we are critiquing America.
Yeah.
But I'd also point...
Yeah, help me out, you guys. Please critique America a little bit. No, that's my job. I critique America every day, okay? So...
British. You're way more naturally to critique yourself than to critique other people. And I do love that side of being British because you're way more self-analytical. I think in terms of other differences between the UK and the US that I've noticed in terms of benefits for Brits is because Brits like take the piss out of one another on average way more. It means that you do have maybe that lowering self-belief, but you're almost a bit more anti-fragile. So if people do say a remark, you've already cracked a joke worse than that in the past, or your friends have. Particularly, and I think the more northern in the country you go, the more
it is the further away from London that you get, the more piss you have taken out of you.
Exactly. Whereas in America, I think people are a lot more, could be more fragile to comments like that. Whereas
we got a lot of fragile people in this country. A lot of them. About 30% of the country is very fragile.
I always say another difference, there's 2 big differences that I think explain the differences between Americans and Brits. So one is simple A/B test of when you meet an American and they're super enthusiastic and excited and the Brits aren't. If you actually go historically back, there was a simple A/B test, which is when the boats came and said, hey, there's this promised land far, far away. We can't show you a video because videos don't exist yet. You may die on the boat. Do you want to come and visit this crazy land? The Brits were the ones who were like, what a ridiculous idea that is. I'm going to stay here.
I'm staying in Skegness.
And the Americans were the ones who were like, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
And that A/B test fundamentally explains it. As well as when you think about it, historically, Americans have, apart from Pearl Harbor, and that was quite far away from America, let's be honest, have never had an attack on their homeland in recent history.
9/11 not count?
The 9/11, yeah, that's one example.
Yeah.
But comparing that to the bombing, like World War I and World War II, like the whole...
Yeah, like a whole war on the country. Yeah, we've never had that, other than Pearl Harbor. Civil wars, of course, and a little bit of Mexico wars, but so long ago.
Built up that makes Brits, I think, a little bit more grittier in some regards than Americans as well.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I'm pessimistic.
Yeah, I can tell. for certain people, I had this discussion with Piers Morgan. Piers was like, I like people bringing me back down to earth. I like the mockery and stuff. I'm like, Piers, that's great for you. It doesn't seem to work too well for me. Like, my desperate requirement for validation and reassurance from the world, like, wasn't being very satiated in Stockton, right, or Newcastle. And then you come over here. One of the best things, and this is something that anybody anywhere on the planet should do, and this is one of the coolest life hacks I've taken since being in America. And you've seen me do it to you, and you've like toe curled at a bunch of parties, which is when in America, at least in my group of friends, you are the new person in a group. Your friend that knows you and knows the group will introduce you and tends to do it in the best 30-second show reel
Pitch
of you that anybody could give. You know, he's got this amazing marketing agency. He's a phenomenal writer, and he's pivoting. He's kind of champagne homeless at the moment. He does all of these things. And like, that's a really lovely gesture. It's your friend. It's an opportunity for them to do something nice for you. It gives you the best impression on the group, and it reminds you about what your friend kind of says about you behind your back when you're not there. And it's like, it inflates you a little bit and makes you feel good and warm and stuff. What would the equivalent be if you were a British friend being introduced to British friends by a British friend?
It would be your worst ever story. Correct. Certainly the northern. Again, this is a northern thing. I think
this is George shit himself last week. Like, you know what I mean? Still has wet dreams.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah,
I kind of like
it is
that.
like the introduction side, how we introduce one another. I've definitely found Americans are much better at selling themselves immediately, whereas I think Brits often downplay themselves immediately. There's a big difference there in terms of like ever so slight cultural differences. But one of the reasons why I think America has been so successful so far, and one thing Britain could improve upon, is if you look at human beings, I think what makes human beings, if you put one human being in a jungle, it's that classic phrase that you put one human being in a jungle and you've just introduced prey into the environment. But if you put 1,000 human beings into the jungle, you've just introduced a apex predator of which the world's never seen before. So the only thing that really makes us special, if you look at us, we don't hear that well compared to our animals. We're not that fast. We're not that strong. We're pretty shit across the board. But our ability to cooperate is what makes us unique. It's the classic Steve Jobs thing of, if you looked at, I think it's energy efficiency in movement, humans are so far down the rankings. Like, there's so many animals ahead of us in terms of, to do a mile, how much energy they need to burn. But if you look at a human being on a bicycle, like, human beings are just blown through the charts. And he has this great quote, which is, the computer is the bicycle of the mind. And if you then go back to, well, ultimately the only thing that makes us unique human beings, because we're shit about everything compared to other animals, is our ability to cooperate. If you have a more enthusiastic society that supports one another more, you can cooperate more, which means that you'll then have way more economic output, because in a certain country that's more optimistic, that goes, I've got this idea, a load of naive Americans are like, great idea, let's do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whereas a culture that's more maybe cynical means that those ideas don't happen, which I think explains why across these universities we have essentially the same IQ levels, the same intelligence levels.
Yeah.
Better accents,
more salmon, but 5x the number of entrepreneurs in America.
All right, that was a little different. Not quite what I was expecting. I don't know. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air, though. Usually, we got the American hate going on over here, which is hilarious because I'm an American. But I love pointing out the flaws in my system. Not my system, but the system that I live in. So I like pointing out those flaws, but I'm also like, I don't hate my country. So it's kind of interesting to get a Brit's perspective on Americans. Yeah. All right. Appreciate you guys watching. I was not expecting that recommendation, but yeah, it was really good. All right. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.